there is a billionaire with a home in New Zealand. He's an American fella. He's the apparently the owner of the Empire State Building, and he wanted to celebrate the new year with an obnoxious fireworks display. Okay, well, his neighbors in New Zealand are farmers with livestock. You know, those things that can stampede sometimes. Probably that was not a significant danger, but nonetheless, they don't like when explosions happen above their heads. Well, he didn't really care about that. He decided, I'm going to do it anyway. Let's check a look. Check a look. Good Lord, Jake. Let's take a look at the New Zealand Herald, which writes, a controversial New Year's Eve fireworks display at a U.S. billionaire's property outside Queenstown is understood to have caused a large scrub fire. The New York-based billionaire owner of the Empire State Building, Tony Malkin, had upset neighbors of his Dalefield property with plans for an extravagant 14-minute fireworks display to bring in 2023. His neighbors got in contact with him, asked him not to do it, cited the fact that they have livestock and it would alarm them, cited the fact that it was likely to cause a fire given conditions at the time. So farmers with livestock that are going to be scared by this, they're going to have to do more work caring for that livestock now if he wants to set off this display. But he's a billionaire. He's used to making other people work more for his pleasure. So now several neighbors who were watching the display closely with fears for their animals believe that a sizable blaze was started by the fireworks. Fire and Emergency New Zealand, FENZ, said there were 3 separate fires on steep terrain which spanned just under 0.5 hectares of land in Dalefield near Arrowtown. So he did it anyway, and exactly what they said would happen happened. Great. All 3 fires were caused by fireworks, FENZ said, and were contained about 2:30 a.m. The fireworks plans of the property tycoon, he is the Empire State Realty Trust chairman, president, and chief executive, had enraged neighbors, the majority of whom owned horses and other livestock animals. They even launched an online petition. Neighbors with animals say nay, adorable, to Queenstown fireworks, and gained more than 600 signatures. 600 signatures in New Zealand. I imagine that's about half the population of the country. Zing, gotcha, New Zealand. But no, that's a significant. Think about how many people own livestock in that area. 600 signatures. In other words, they asked him politely. And he just decided he was going to act like an a-hole. One neighbor, spoken to by the Herald this morning, said they had moved their animals away for the night, but watched the drama unfold on social media last night. Fire was obviously our main concern, and it just seemed ludicrous to have a commercial-based fireworks display in a rural area. Yeah, because it is. It just seems to fly in the face of logic with stock and the fire risk, said the neighbor, who wished to remain anonymous. I don't blame him, because he's a New Zealand farmer and he does not have the resources to counteract any attack he would get from the default fans of billionaires. But there's a bigger story here of someone who has money and seeming to be able to do whatever they want. It's just not very neighborly, what they have done. We highlighted that at the start. Yes, they did. New Zealand, every time I see him in the news, impresses me. Their culture seems to be responsible and kind, and it breaks my heart that we shipped one of our scummiest scumbags over there with our culture that does not hold them accountable and allows them to think that they get to act like God kings simply because they were able to stiff their own employees out of the money they were due. This is what resulted. I'm embarrassed. We all should be. If you happen to live in New York, you happen to see Tony Malkin, tell him your old pal Jake says he's an asshole. It is eternally disappointing to see the lack of accountability for wealthy people. Now, that didn't happen in our country, but we cannot, in the United States, if that is where you are watching from, but we cannot deny that was one of ours embarrassing us internationally. I highly recommend we start the cultural shift of being louder, of contacting our representatives regularly, and of simply not putting up with this. You see somebody running defense for a billionaire online ever, engage with that person. Let them know billionaires are not your friends.